This lady thought it was just a normal night, but things quickly went wrong. She got caught in a setup she never saw coming and ended up facing 40 years in prison. How did one choice change everything? Watch as she shares her unbelievable story.
Hey y'all, so story time on how I got caught up, locked up, and I was facing 40 years in prison. Now, before I get started, this was 20 years ago, so not too much on your girl. So, this was back in 2005, and I was at Hampton University. And that's in Virginia, if you don't know. Shout out to HU. So I was living off campus in a townhouse with my roommate or whatever. And this dude that I was talking to, he did not go to the school. He was like a neighborhood dude or whatever. And he was a blood. I didn't even know they had bloods in Virginia, but he was a blood. Yeah, so he was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get some or whatever, call your homeboy. In my mind, I didn't think, because I was green back then. You a blood, you know people. Why did I call my man? But that's neither here nor there. So I end up calling my, man or whatever, and I tell him, A, come through, da 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 da, I'm gonna send you my address or whatever, pull up. It was December 30th, and I was like, I'm trying to get some before the New Year's, because, they be out and about. Now, the dude that I was talking to at the time, his cousin was like, nah, don't tell him to pull up over here. Tell him to, meet us at this other like neighborhood. And so when I told the dude, like, meet me over there, he was like, I ain't never met you there. Like, this sound kind of fishy. And I was like, well, I'm out and about, even though I wasn't. I was like, I'm out and about. Just meet me there. Whatever. So he ends up texting me like all these questions like, what's this area? You know what I'm saying? Usually you meet me in like shopping centers. This seems like it's somebody's house, but it ain't your house. Like, what's tea pretty much? I'm green. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just like, can you just pull up, please? Like, just come on so I can go back in the house. And I was going to tell him to pull up to my house, but again, he never knew where I lived at, and I didn't want just anybody knowing my address. So I was like, just come to this place, whatever, boom, I'm gonna pull up. Whole time, my dude and his cousins had the idea in their mind that they was gonna rob this nigga. I didn't know. So he pulls up to the location, and I guess he catches on. And he like pulls up, kind of creeps up, and when he sees my dude and his cousins like get out my car, because they just jumped out. When he gets, when they get out the car, he pulls off. Whatever. He was like, nah, not fucking with it. If you want me to come to your house, I'll come to your house, but I'm not about to just meet you like anywhere. Because again, usually we meet in like a well-lit place, Walmart parking lot, something like that. So I'm like, okay, well, you can come back. Here's my address. Boom, just come to my townhouse. It is what it is. Just come to my townhouse, and yeah, we can go ahead and do this exchange. So he ends up pulling up to my townhouse, but as he's pulling up to my townhouse, he kind of beat me there, because as I was telling him like where I lived at, we were still coming from, the other location. So the dude that I was messing with was like, park right here. It wasn't in front of my townhouse, but he was like, just park right here. So I was like, y'all not on that shit, is y'all? And they was like, nah, just park right here. So the dude pulls into the neighborhood or whatever, and he pulls in front of my townhouse, and he like, where you at? Whole time, I know what these niggas is about to do, so I'm not trying to answer him. Like, he's calling me, he's texting me, and I'm just not trying to reply, because I didn't want none of that shit to happen. So he ends up like pulling around, because like in townhouse setups in the parking lot, you can kind of like cut around the parking lot and come back out the complex. So he turns around and he's trying to leave back out. Girl, my dude and the cousin then jumped out the car and started shooting his car up. Started pew 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 pewing his car up. My head is down. It's bullets flying everywhere. I'm scared to death. So they end up getting back in my car, and they like pull off, pull off, pull off. So I pulled off like an idiot. So they know who I am. They know where I live. Of course, the police are called, because it was just a shootout in a townhouse neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So of course the police were called. So I'm like, y'all, I'm gonna get caught up in this because he knows who I am. I'm not like a stranger. I'm not going by a nickname here. He knows me on a first name basis and he has the address. All I gotta do is pull the information. 1 + 1 is equaling 2 here. So they was like, just call the police and tell them somebody tried to rob you, da 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 da. And I was like, no, I'm going back. So I end up going back or whatever, and they're still in the car. I don't care. If I'm going back, y'all are going back. We're all going to jail. So we get back or whatever. I see their car, pew pewed up. Okay. And thank God nobody got hit. But they had me stand in front of a police car and they shined the light on me and they basically asked the guys that was sitting in the car, like, am I the one that caught them? And they was like, yeah. So I immediately got locked up. They locked the other 2 dudes up or whatever, the dude that I was talking to and his cousin. So we get to the jail or whatever, the Hampton City police station, and I am getting interrogated for hours. When I mean hours, I mean hours. This is at 6 minutes. I'm gonna do a part 2. Part 2 of how I got caught up, locked up, and was facing 40 years in prison. Okay, so after the dudes identified who I was, they took me down to the police station or whatever, and they put me inside of an interrogation room for hours and let me sit there by myself. I was literally in the room for like 3 hours, like cold, freezing. And then they came in or whatever and they started asking me all these questions. Now, before I got there, the dude that I was talking to and his cousin was like, you better not say nothing. And I mean nothing. So I was already scared off of that. But then I had never been locked up. I had never been in trouble. So I didn't know what I was up against when it came to talking to detectives. So the detectives or whatever, they come in, they're asking me all these questions about, you know what I'm saying, what happened. And I'm basically answering the questions, but I'm trying to find a way to like go around. I'm trying to outsmart them, but it's not working. They're like, you need to give us something or you're going to go to jail too behind this, da 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 da. And I'm just like, I didn't have nothing to do with this, but I did. But in my mind, I'm like, I didn't have nothing to do with this. I wasn't the one shooting. It was like, okay, so who was? I'm telling them, like, my head was in my lap. I didn't see who was shooting, which is true. Which is true. My head was buried in my lap because I was scared. I'm surprised I didn't use the bathroom myself. I was scared. So yeah, I was telling them, like, I don't know nothing, da 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 da. So they came and did a GSR, a gunshot residue test or whatever on me. And they was just like, yeah, we're going to find out if you were the one shooting, blah, 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 blah. So remember, I told y'all this incident happened on December 30th. It is now December 31st, but it's like really early in the morning. So after they keep trying to make me write my statement out and they're like, we're not getting anything up out of you. Like, you're about to go to jail, sweetheart. And the whole time in my mind, it didn't click like, I'm not going to jail because I didn't have nothing to do with this. I'm not the one that was shooting, but little did I know. And where I messed up at is I never asked for a lawyer. So after hours and hours and hours of them trying to interrogate me and get me to like write my statement in a way that they wanted me to, because they kept asking me questions, trying to trip me up, you know what I'm saying, trying to get me to question what I was saying or whatever. They was just like, you know what, baby girl, stand up, put your hands behind your back. You're going to jail. So they ended up taking me from the police station over to the Hampton City jail or whatever, and they processed me in. I like walked in the door or whatever. I walked up to the desk. They took me to one of the rooms. They took my clothes off. They made me get naked. I had to do the cough test. You know, you bend over and cough, boom, boom, boom. They took pictures of all my tattoos. They did my fingerprints, and they put me in an orange jumpsuit. So for the first couple of hours, they had me in like a holding cell with maybe like 10 other people or whatever. And they gave us those nasty hard sandwiches or whatever. And then after that, they moved me over to general population. So by this time, it's like 7 o'clock and December 31st was it I don't remember because this was 2005 again. I know it was like on a weekend. I can't remember if it was a Friday or a Saturday. But all I know is they told me that I wasn't going to court until after New Year's. So my family, we talk every day. So I'm trying to figure out like what lie can I come up with as to why my family hasn't, heard from me since the 30th. Like, what can I say to get around this? Okay, so I've missed dinner by this point. They put me in the cell with my cellmate. Mind you, I was in maximum security. So I was in there with killers and drug dealers. So they gave me my cellmate. She told me which bunk was mine. She gave me the rules of how things go. You know what I'm saying? You can't poop at this time. Don't flush the toilet after this time. Stuff like that. So, night one, I basically cried all night, all night. Like, boohoo cried all night. And my cellmate was basically like, girl, shut up. You in here, just take it to the chin and shut up because I don't want to hear that. So, yeah, part three coming. Okay, y'all. So, part three of how I got caught up, locked up, and was facing 40 years in prison. So, I survived my first night. The second day, well, the first full day that I was in there, the ladies, they was real chill. They, play cards with me. They were chatting with me. They was asking me, what I was in there for. And, I don't know if you've been in jail or if you've seen like a jail show like 60 Days In, it's real. They question you down. What you in here for? Let me see your paperwork. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. They was looking at my stuff and they was just like, damn, girl, what you get yourself caught up in type shit. So I'm sitting there, I'm conversing with them, getting to know them, but at the same time I'm trying to keep my distance because in my head I'm getting out. So the day goes on. Jail is not for the weak. They wake you up at like 4 o'clock in the morning for a roll call and to check your bunk, and you got to make your bed and all that stuff. You got to clean, take your showers, whatever. Breakfast is early. Dinner's at like 4 o'clock. Lights out is like 7. And like I said, I was in maximum security. So we're gonna fast forward through the day because nothing is really relevant to this video. So January 2nd, I end up going to court. So when I go to court, the magistrate or whatever, no, let's backtrack. So they wake me up early and they tell me they have to transport me. So they put me in handcuffs, shackles around my ankles and stuff like that, and they put me in a van and transfer me from the jail to the courthouse. Once I get to the courthouse, they put me in like another room with a bunch of people, and I'm just praying that I'm gonna get out. Like the lady's gonna be like, okay, you can go home. It wasn't given that. So I didn't even go inside of like a real courtroom. It was like in the holding cell, a small TV, and I basically looked at the judge through the TV. The judge, she read off my charges. It was 3 gun charges, 3 conspiracy charges, and 3 attempted murders. So the reason why it was 3 of each is because it was 3 people in the car that got pewed up. The gun charges is what held a lot of that and the attempted murder. So I talked to the judge and she basically was just like held with no bond, and I could about died. I could about died. And so she was like, well, we're going to get you a lawyer, da da da. Here's where the story gets good. So I finally meet with my lawyer. She is a lawyer, but she's also a prosecutor. So she knows both sides of the fences. So when I was sitting down, I was talking to her. She basically told me like, now is the time for you to call your parents. So I was like, all right, I'll call them, when this little meeting is over, but where's the cousin and where's the dude that I was talking to? Are they locked up? Because I better not be the only one that's locked up. She basically told me the cousin was at the Hampton City Jail. Well, he was probably at the courthouse too because everybody had court today. But the guy that I was talking to, he was at the juvenile detention center. I said, I'm sorry, what? She said, you heard me, the juvenile detention center. That boy was 16 years old, or 17 or something like that. I was 19. He lied about his age. So I'm mad as hell. Because what you mean I was messing with this little teenager? Like, what you mean? Like, I couldn't even fathom. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. Like, not only did y'all put me in this situation, well, I mean, I kind of put myself in it too, but y'all let me get wrapped up in this. And y'all knew this boy was lying about his age. And y'all just kept this going. Like, y'all had me messing with this little boy. I wanted to fight everybody. So after I ended up meeting with her, I went back to my cell or whatever after they transported me back to the jail. And I called my parents, and that was a very hard conversation because they were disappointed. But I tell you what, they was in the first thing, they was smoking from Maryland to Virginia. They got on 95 real fast. One of my mom's best friend was living in Hampton, or she still lives in Hampton, so she basically put money on my books and gave me some fresh whites, because you know under your jumpsuit you have to wear whites or whatever. So yeah, she gave me some fresh whites. My parents got there, and we basically had a meeting with the lawyer and my parents. I was locked up for 3 weeks, and somehow my lawyer ended up getting me another bond hearing or whatever, to see if I can try to get out. So I ended up getting that bond hearing, but it was 3 weeks from the day that I was told no bond. And they let me out on bail for, I had no priors, I was in school, stuff like that. Once I ended up getting out or whatever and I was on bail, I still had to come back to court for the cousin and the dude I was talking to at the time, their court dates or whatever. So time has gone by. The first dude, he goes to court, and the witness basically was like, oh, it wasn't him. We must have picked the wrong guy out of the lineup. That wasn't him. Whole time the witnesses were getting intimidated, so they were scared to testify. Same thing happened with the second guy, and then it was my turn to go to court in July. So by the time I went to court in July, they just dropped the whole case because the witnesses weren't cooperating. Thank God, because like I said, I was facing 40 years if we would have got convicted of these 9 Class A felonies. Moral of the story is, watch who you're friends with, watch who you interact with, watch who's around you, you know what I'm saying? Because that could have been really bad. And like this comment says, in Virginia, they will try to bury you underneath of the jail. The Commonwealth is nothing to play with. So I was able to get out of that situation. I was able to get it expunged off my record. But it did mess me up as far as school. As far as the dudes, never talked to him again in my life. And I think maybe like 5 years or so ago, the guy sent me a friend request on Facebook, the dude that I was talking to. He sent me a friend request. The other dude, the cousin, I haven't talked to him at all. But the dude I had, So it is what it is. You live and you learn. It's 20 years later. I'm here, I'm thriving, and I survived it all by God's grace.
In the end, she walked free, but not without a hard lesson learned. This story is a reminder that the wrong people and one bad decision can change everything. What would you have done in her situation? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories.